First of all, the game is a great game. It's not an easy game, it's a tough game, but it's a great game. If it was an easy game, everybody would do it, but everybody can't do it. But you got to be tough enough to do it. But the game is a game that you learn a lot of valuable life lessons. And I spoke earlier some of the lessons. You learn how to get up after being knocked down. Folks, that's a lesson that you can take with you throughout life.
Hey, this is Lavar Arrington, your host of the podcast of the year. Why? Because this is National Football Foundation podcast, Good in the Game. That's right. This is going to be our first episode. And who better to start it off with than the legend himself, Archie Griffin. We're going to talk youth football. We're going to talk first plays. He had an amazing story to tell, recollection of the first time he ever got into a game for Ohio State. The Heisman's, talking about the preparation, talking about being a good person in life, living by the golden rule. You're going to get all that and more with my conversation with Archie Griffin. Buckle up. Let's get going. It's good in the game. Here we go. Let's try to do this, and let's do it a little bit of service. This is Goat Griffin that we have right here, otherwise known as Archie Griffin. Some people may not know this about you, but you finished fifth in voting your sophomore year. So in theory, technically, you almost got the Heisman 3 times. People may not know that about you, but then you ended up getting it in 74 and 75, Big Ten most valuable player in 73 and 74. United Press International Player of the Year twice in 74 and 75. Walter Camp Foundation named you Player of the Year 74 and 75. The Maxwell Award named you Player of the Year in 75. Sporting News Man of the Year in 75. College Football Hall of Fame in 1986. Enshrined in the Ohio State Athletic Hall of Fame in 81. Retired your jersey, the famous 45, in 99. Inducted into the Rose Bowl Hall of Fame in 1990. And you were honored with the statue, which I had the pleasure of being a part of the ceremony when they unveiled it in 2024 in August 17th at Rose Bowl Stadium. Not very many people will have this type of resume, if not any ever in the history of the game. Archie Griffin. I mean, all right. I hope I did all right doing an intro on your accolades and your honors. Did I leave anything out?
No, you didn't leave anything out. You did better than anybody could ever expect anybody to ever do. Thank you so much. And it just makes me realize how fortunate, Lavar, that I was to be able to play on the teams that I played on during my time at Ohio State, because as you know, one man can't do it. And I was very fortunate to be on some great teams. I had some great players, had some great All-Americans playing with me. And that certainly helped me to achieve the things that I was able to achieve. So I count myself as very fortunate and very thankful for being in the right place at the right time with the right people.
It's amazing. I mean, a 4-time starter in the Rose Bowl during bowl season. Archie, this is a podcast about, this is the good of the game. Mm-hmm. And this was created to talk about what good has come from being a part of this game, and none would be able to give it any more justice in speaking to that than yourself. You've been a part of the Columbus community for the last 50 years since winning your first Heisman. Can you just talk about what has this game done for Archie Griffin?
Well, this game, first of all, has done a lot. I come from a fairly large family, Lavar. I've got 6 brothers and a sister. My parents, they were the type that gave all of us priorities to live by. Trusting in God was the first one. Getting a college education was the second one. And that third one was for all of us to participate in sports. And they wanted to participate in sports because when you get involved in sports, you learn a lot of life's valuable lessons, things such as the will to win, coping with pressure, getting along in a team situation, all which are very, very important. But what is most important is that when you play the game of football, you learn the real life lesson of how to get up once you get knocked down. And when you talk about the game of football and what it has taught me, it's taught me to get up after being knocked down. And that's a lesson that's helped me throughout my life, because anytime I get in any type of situation, I know that if I'm going to get knocked down, or if I'm having tough times, just see it through. You're going to be okay, because of the lessons I learned through the game of football, getting up after being knocked down. And the game has been so very, very important. And for me personally, my college education is because of the game of football. As I mentioned, my folks had a goal for us to all get college educations. Well, all 6 of my brothers and my sister got college educations. My 6 brothers all played college football, and they were all on college scholarship, and were all able to get their education because of the game of football. And that was something that was so very, very important to us. And people ask me all the time about going into pro football. They say, another well, pro football was never a goal of mine. My goal was to play football, get a college scholarship, and get out and make a living. That was my goal. And college, high school football and all the football that I played before college was going to help me do that. And it got me the scholarship to go to Ohio State. I was able to go there, graduate a quarter early, and fortunately, I had the opportunity to play some professional football. But the education was the big goal that I had in the back of my mind, because that was one of the goals that my folks had for all of us. And my parents didn't make a lot of money. They could have never afforded to send 8 kids to college. And the game of football sent 7 of us, and then track and field sent my sister.
That's awesome.
And so sports in general was very, very important. But football, the game, loved it. Growing up, I loved watching Jim Brown. He was the guy that I wanted to be like. And I'll never forget one of the greatest compliments I had when I played Little League football, my first year playing the position of fullback. At the banquet, I was about 11 years old. The coach told me told the whole crowd at that time at our banquet, he introduced me as the next Jim Brown. And
Wow.
I never, ever forgot that. And that was always in the back of my mind when I played the game, when I went on to high school, and even when I went to college. I wanted to be the best that I could be. And watching Jim Brown as I grew up, played for the Cleveland Browns, it was remarkable, and set a great example for me, and how to run and how to be tough and how just to play the game.
Can you talked about that experience and being tough and playing at a high level. What went into your development? Like when you played Little League, when you played high school and eventually made it into Ohio State, the game of football was a truly, truly more physical game. When you were coming through, the rules are a whole lot different now.
Yes, they are.
And the physicality of the game in which you came up in and you played in, can you talk a little bit about what went into what molded? You talked about wanting to play like Jim Brown, but was there an influence? Was there something close? Because for me, being from Pittsburgh, our influence was Mean Joe Green. It was L.C. Greenwood. It was Jack Ham and Lambert. That's what influenced guys like me. It was Greg Lloyd and Kevin Green.
Right.
I patterned myself after those guys when I was growing up. before it was even about learning about fundamentals or anything like that, I molded my mindset to what I envisioned to match what the intensity of what those guys were doing, even at a young age. What was your influence? Was there a real influence on that, or was it just I got God's gifts? I'm out here. I'm a run over these cats. I'm gonna run around them. I'm gonna run through them. What was a part of how you developed coming up?
Well, first of all, again, Jim Brown was my influence. At a young age, when I first started playing football, I played guard, offensive guard, and nose guard on defense. When I was a young kid, I was pretty heavy. I was could never play with the kids my own age because I weighed too much. So I played up in weight. So when I was 9 years old, I was playing with guys that were like from 12 to 14 years old. Because I couldn't make the weight of the younger teams. So I played offensive guard and nose guard on defense. And be honest with you, playing with those older guys, I got in every game, but I didn't play a whole lot because those guys were older and they were better. I mean, I was 9 years old, they were 12, 13 years old. But we had a coach who really believed in letting young people play. And he let me play every game. And probably the reason he let me play every game is because we never lost a game. And he had the opportunity to put me in every game. But he was an influence on me. He encouraged me to be the best I could be, even though I was playing guard and nose guard on defense. Well, when I got a little bit older, my family moved. And we had to leave the area where I was at 9, 10, 11 years old. So when I was 12 years old, I started playing for another team, but it was in the same league. But at that time, I had gained a lot of weight. And so I was over the 135-pound limit that they had as the weight limit for the Bearcat League. That was the league that I played in. So I had to lose weight. And I did all kind of crazy things to lose the necessary weight, but I lost
trash bags, chewing gum, sat in a hot bathtub, had hot bath water. Been there.
We had this old white station wagon that sit out in our backyard.
Just sit in it.
Go anywhere, sit in it, let the back seat down, did push-ups, did sit-ups, did all kind of stuff. Wrap those cleaners bags. You know, when you go to cleaners,
that's right.
Close to the cleaners, those bags. Put those over my
under
body,
a sweater.
Put it under all kind of clothes. Went out, ran around the block, the whole works. But I lost the necessary weight that I needed to continue to play in that league. And at that time, I started out playing guard again and nose guard on defense. But one day, no fullback showed up for practice. And coach asked for volunteers to play fullback. Well, I always admired Jim Brown. So you know me. I'll play coach. Put me in. And I played fullback that day in practice.
And it never changed.
Never changed after that.
I love it.
And from that point on, I wanted to be Jim Brown. I mean, I did everything he did. Jim Brown ran hard, got hit. He would get up real slow, walk back slowly to the huddle. You didn't think that he was going to come back again, but the next play, boom! I tried to do exactly that. And everything that I did, I wanted to be like Jim Brown. And I had success doing that. So that made me believe that I could play the position. So when I played the position, I played it with that attitude that nobody's going to bring me down. And the first position that I played was fullback in Little League. And then once I reached high school, I played fullback throughout high school. But when I got to college, I had to change because my size didn't grow much.
Now you were normal, right? You're normal now.
I didn't grow much after that. So I was only about 185 pounds. And so I ended up playing tailback. And I tried to take the same attitude to that position as I did the fullback position. But again, Lavar, being in the right place at the right time with the right people really, really helps.
Yeah. I mean, makes a lot of sense. Can you expand a little bit on playing? Because it's funny. I started off as a nose guard. I started off as a tackle. And you and I know, culturally speaking, we want to be quarterback or running back or receiver. We don't want to do the dirty work. But we had to, like, for some of us, because of our size, we had to play those positions. Did that have any impact on how you developed and were able to play the game as a running back? Like, did any of the idea of it for me? I took a lot of what I learned early on as a nose guard and as a tackle, and I thought how they would think, like, what are they going to do? I taught myself anticipation as a back just based off of thinking, okay, this is how I thought when I was blocking, or this is how I thought when I was a nose tackle. Did any of that play a part in your development as a running back?
Oh, no question about it. It gave me great appreciation for those linemen, for those offensive guards, for the center, for the tackles, and the job that they had to do to make sure that we were successful in running the play. The appreciation that they gave me really, really helped me a long way. And I think it helped me in my own dealing with our offensive line and dealing with our defensive team, and how much importance they played for the success of our football team. So having the opportunity to play those different positions makes you appreciate what these guys do, and it helps you in your running. And one of the things that I always did as a running back is I tried to learn everybody's position. I mean, I knew what everybody on my offensive line was going to do. I mean, not just that I had to run through this hole or that hole, but I wanted to know what the blocking scheme was, the whole works. And that certainly helped me in my playing at the Ohio State University and beyond.
Let's talk about that. So you get there, you have a strong freshman season. You don't break 1,000 yards rushing.
No, I don't break 1,000 yards. Matter of fact, my freshman year, Lavar, was the very first year that freshmen were eligible to play. Because you might remember back in, was it 1970, I think,
right.
Marshall University and Wichita State University had those plane crashes. And freshmen at that time weren't able to play Division I football. They had their own freshman team.
Right.
But Marshall wanted to continue their football team, and they couldn't do it because they lost a lot of their sophomores, juniors, and seniors in the plane crash. So the NCAA then allowed freshmen to play. So 1972 was the very first year that freshmen were eligible. So going into that year, my main goal was, hey, I want to make the varsity team. Because when I was coming out of high school, a lot of people told me I shouldn't go to Ohio State. They said that I was too small. They said Coach Woody Hayes, he only recruits the big backs well over 200 pounds, and that I would never get a shot at playing at Ohio State. And I ought to go somewhere where the guys were smaller and I'd get a good chance. Well, being an athlete, and you know this, you feel you know your abilities better than anyone else. So I took it as a challenge to go to Ohio State University. And I'll never forget when I reported to camp, I was put at the back meant playing on the fifth team, and playing on the fifth team meant playing on the scout squad. And, we were taking the beatings every day from the first teamers. Our job was to run the opposing team plays while the first team defense got their practice off of us. And that was kind of discouraging because you really had a hard time seeing, when you were going to get your shot.
Opportunity, right?
That's right. Especially, being a freshman, this being the very first year that freshmen were eligible. Well, I'll never forget in that first year when we had our first home game. Coach Hayes, he had this belief that if you practice for Ohio State, then you should be identified in Ohio State University uniform at a home game. And I was really happy about that because that would at least show that I was part of the team. And I'll never forget that first game that we played against Iowa. In the fourth quarter, about a couple minutes to go in the game, Coach Hayes gave a few freshmen an opportunity to play, and I was one of those freshmen. And I remember him calling me off the bench to go into the game. I remember how excited I was. This was my big opportunity. If I could get in the game and run for a touchdown and make a big play, maybe he might just put me on that varsity team. Well, he put me in with 2 minutes to go, got in the huddle. First play call was an 18. It was a pitch out to me going around the right side. Big opportunity for me. We broke the huddle. Balls. Quarterback started calling to say it was ball snap. As soon as the ball was snapped, Lavar did something that was fundamentally wrong. And this is the truth when I tell you, when you're a running back or a receiver and you're going to get a pitch out or a pass, one of the fundamental things that you're taught first in Little League is that you got to look the ball into your hands.
Got to look it into your hands.
From the quarterback's hands right into your own hand. But when the ball was snapped, the first thing that I did is I focused my attention on the home which I was going to run through. And when I looked towards that hole, I was shocked because those guys had opened up a hole big enough you could drive a truck through it. So instead of me turning back towards the quarterback and watching the ball come in my hand, I kept my eyes on that hole because I wanted to make sure it didn't go anywhere. Me with my eyes on the hole, the quarterback pitched the ball hit me in the hands, and I fumbled. And man, I've got to tell you that I thought that I had blown my big chance. He took me out of the game, and I was hurt, man, because I just felt that I might not ever get another chance. Well, I remember going home. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and I remember going home that evening, and my dad said something was wrong with me. He asked me about it, and I told him, I said, Daddy, I don't know I'll get another chance. I'm 15 tailback on the scout squad. I fumbled the ball with my only chance. I just don't, and I'm a freshman. I mean, I just don't know if I'm ever going to get another chance. Well, my father, like he'd always do, gave me encouragement. He said, Archie, you know what? If they didn't think you could play, they wouldn't have put you in then. So, just go back, continue to do what you've been doing. Well, I went back to practice that next week, but I was still on that fifth team, still on the scout squad, still taking that beating every day from the first teamers. But our next game was also a home game, and it was against the University of North Carolina. And again, because it was a home game, Coach Hayes allowed everybody to dress.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So the night before that game, when varsity, they went away to a hotel, and we was freshmen in Missouri, we would meet up with the varsity day of the game at the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
That game against North Carolina started, and North Carolina blocked a punt of ours, and they went ahead of us 7-0. And all of a sudden, midway through the first quarter, call from the bench called Griffin. Kept calling Griffin. I knew he wasn't talking to me. Couldn't have been me, man. I'm the fifth team tailback. I'm on the scout squad. I had fumbled the week before, and I was a freshman. Couldn't have been me. But they kept calling Griffin. And I was the only Griffin on the team at the time. So I went up to Coach Hayes, and he grabbed me by the shoulder pad, and he told me to go in the tailback. Well, right then I got all excited and went to run into the game. And as I went to run out to the field, one of my good friends happened to call me back because in all the excitement, Lavar, I forgot to take my helmet with me.
Didn't even take your helmet. That is amazing.
Couldn't believe it. But I got myself together. I went into the game, and I will tell you, I was in a daze the whole time. All I could tell you is my number was being called, and I was just running with the ball. It was just a big fog. And I know that I played about 2.5 quarters. I came out of the game in the beginning of the fourth quarter. And when I came out of the game in the beginning of the fourth quarter, the 86,000 fans that were in Ohio Stadium that day, they stood up and gave me a standing ovation. Wow. And they did it because in those 2.5 quarters, I had rushed for 239 yards, which at that time was no Ohio
was the record.
Yeah, that's right. And I just couldn't believe it. But to me, it was a miracle. And I will say this, the night before that game, when I prayed, as I do every night, I asked the Lord to give me a chance to play in that game, and when he gave me the chance to help me play to the best of my ability. So I do count that as a miracle, and I'm so very, very thankful because that was really the springboard to my career at Ohio State.
That's amazing. Okay, then you go into your next year, and you do start breaking 1,000 yards rushing. And you are dominant. The one thing about being dominant, I said this to Saquon Barkley going into his last year of school. When you're at the bottom of the totem pole, at the flagpole, the wind don't blow that hard there. People don't see it. It ain't high enough. People can see it up close, but they don't see it from far and wide, right? But when you show that you can play and you get there, and now he's coming out of that freshman year, and he's going into that sophomore season, and he's playing well. And then it goes into that junior year, and you win it. You win that Heisman Trophy. You're one of the most dominant players in all of college football. What was the mindset to know that coming out of your sophomore campaign, that it was going to be what it was going to be, how hard it was going to be to actually play well enough to win a Heisman? And then what is the mindset of once you're at the top of the flagpole, and listen, you come to the table, you can grab off of the table, you grab the food because they're like, who is this grabbing the food? Oh, he got some food. Oh, wait, now we see him coming. You ain't just going to come to the table and take the food off of the table. Now you got to come take this food, right?
That's exactly right.
How did you do it? How'd you do it?
After my freshman year, and especially after my sophomore year, it got harder and harder and harder. No question about it. And my coach, Woody Hayes, he used to always have this saying, and he always said, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. You never stay the same. You
Mm-hmm.
never stay at the same level. So for me, and it was probably a little warped thinking even on my part, I felt that after my sophomore year, and and you mentioned I had finished fifth in the Heisman voting. So I was a target. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
people were going to be out to get me. So I had to try and up my game or do the best that I could do to up my game. And I continued to work hard. I wanted to make sure that I was in the best condition that I could be in. I wanted to make sure that mentally I was right, and I didn't want to make mistakes. So I tried to be at the top of my game mentally and physically. One of the things I'll do from a physical standpoint, we had a guy by the name of Brian Bashnagel who played for the Chicago Bears for several years. But Brian was one of those guys who worked extremely hard. I mean, he was always in the best condition of anybody. And one of the things I would always do is I would always work out with Brian because I knew that if I could hang with Brian in the workouts, that I would be in the best condition I could possibly be in. I would be ready to play no matter what. So I would always work out with Brian to make sure that I was in the best possible position I could be in, and I felt that would help me during the course of the season. And I will say this: Coach Woody Hayes helped out a lot because I wasn't a guy that ran the ball 30 times a game. I may have run the ball 30 times in a game, maybe 2 or 3 times in my whole career at Ohio State. But I didn't run the ball that much because once we got a lead, once we got a comfortable lead, he'd take me out and rest me. He wanted me to get at least 100 yards, but he would take me out and he'd rest me and let some of the other guys play. So I always appreciated that because that meant that he cared about me physically and didn't feel that I had to carry the ball 30 times a game to do what we needed to do. And we had some good backs too. I mean, I played with Pete Johnson. I played with Champ Henson. Those guys were real good. I mean, they were outstanding, as a matter of fact. So we could share the load. I had a great quarterback in Cornelius Green, who was a great option quarterback. I always called
DC,
him,
baby.
yeah, that's right.
DMV.
Because I always called him a magician with the football. So that was helpful as well. So I just tried to be the best that I could possibly be. I was elected captain as a junior, and I felt a big responsibility in that because it was unusual for a junior to be captain anyway. And so I felt that I had to be a leader on that team. And when I say leader, I had to lead from a conditioning standpoint. I had to lead from a leadership standpoint. And those things were all very, very important to me. But I did the best I could do. I always tell people what I do is I do the best I can do with the opportunity that I have. And you can expect to get the best out of me. And that's all I could really, really do, Lavar. Be the best that I could be.
It has, and this is now where the rubber meets the road because there's the transition from that mindset and what it went into to be the type of player that you were. But the one thing that always precedes you is the reputation of how amazing a man you are, how great a person you are. The energy that you exude is that makes you instantly be inspired. When I saw you, every time I see you, I'm inspired. Every time I'm around you, I feel a sense of pride that makes me want to be better. When you left the game, you took that mentality, the humble approach that I'm going to be the best I can be, and it has translated in your post career life. How has that those experiences that you learned from football translated? Because so many times it's very difficult for us to take and become civilians, become normal everyday people, and regardless of what our accolades are and what we accomplish, for some of us that at the highest level of achievement, it's the hardest to be able to adapt and adjust to not being that star that you were when you were an active player. but you have impacted the community. You have continued to work with the university. At one point, you were assistant athletic director. You're the president of the alumni club association that guys have had. You have been so entrenched and so active that you have created a blueprint for us guys like myself to follow post career. What went into that? How did it translate into you being able to establish being such a well respected person that sits on boards of major corporations and sits on boards of charities and foundations? What went into that?
Well, that goes back to home. My parents, again, they gave us great directions, and one of the things that they taught us, Lavar, that I'll never forget, and I say the same thing to my kids, and that is you treat people right. You treat people right. They always taught us or told us about following the golden rule: do unto others as you wish they would do unto you. And that was so important. And I always, whether it's on my job as president and CEO of the Ohio State University Alumni Association or whatever job I've ever had, I've always wanted to make sure that I treated people right, that I treated people in situations the way I would want to be treated in those situations. And usually, when you do that, the results are a good thing because nobody ever wants to be treated bad. And when you think about how if you got to let somebody go, this, that, and the other, what's the proper way to do that? How would if you were being let go, how would you like to be treated? Those things come to mind when I'm in those situations. And then the other thing is the good Lord up above. I've been a man of faith all my life, and again, that comes from my parents. And I also think about my former football coach, Woody Hayes. He had this thing, what he talked about every year to us: paying forward, doing things to help other people. Every year, he preached that to us. And not only did he preach it to us, but you could see him do it. And that was so very, very important. That was so influential in my life because when it comes to charities and things of that sort, uh, I want to pay it forward. I want to do things to help other people. There were people out there when I was a kid doing things to help me help my family. And I want to be able to help others if I could possibly can. And Woody Hayes was the best at that. He talked. He got it from Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay on compensation, where it says you can never pay back the good that someone may have done for you, but you can always pay forward. And he preached that to us. He paid forward. You could watch him every year and all the charities that he got involved with. And I can remember on Thursday evenings after a light practice, a lot of us, few of us, would get into the back of his El Camino, and he would drive us down to Children's Hospital, and we would meet up with some kids that were in Children's Hospital that looked forward to Ohio State players coming down on Thursday nights, and they would leave a door open for Woody to bring us in. Now he didn't want anybody to know about it. He didn't want the press or anybody to know about it. If the press would have known about it, he wouldn't have done it. But the fact that the folks at the administrators at Children's Hospital wanted him to come down and bring some players to meet with the kids. Meant a lot to him, and he wanted to make sure that he would do it. And we'd get in the back of his El Camino, we'd drive down, and we'd meet with those kids, and those kids had great smiles on their faces, and they look forward to it. And Coach Hayes, he loved doing that because he knew that it helped those kids. But paying forward was his big mantra in everything that he would do. He would talk about paying forward, doing things to help others.
I love that. Before I let you go, I'm gonna ask you one more question, and the podcast is called "Good in the Game." What would your good in the game message be to today's athletes, whether it's the younger generations of guys that are aspiring to make it at the high school, college level, maybe even the pro level? What is the good in the game message that Archie Griffin would want them to know and take with them?
First of all, the game is a great game. It's not an easy game. It's a tough game, but it's a great game. If it was an easy game, everybody would do it, but everybody can't do it. But you got to be tough enough to do it. But the game is a game that you learn a lot of valuable lifelong lessons. And I spoke earlier of some of the lessons. You learn how to get up after being knocked down. Folks, that's a lesson that you can take with you throughout life. I had a junior high school guidance counselor, a guy by the name of Mr. Gill, great, great inspirer in my life. But I'll never forget in junior high school, he told us about some 3 words that he thought would help us in our lives, 3 words that he thought would help us be successful. And those 3 words were desire, dedication, and determination. And I remember him telling us that if we'd apply those 3 Ds, desire, you have to want something out of life. Dedication, you must be committed to achieving that certain something. And determination, you must be able to overcome the obstacles that might somehow get in your way. I remember him telling us that if we'd apply those 3 Ds to anything that we want to do, then we could always feel good about ourselves. And we could feel good about ourselves because if we use those 3 Ds, in essence, what we have done is we have given a total commitment, a total commitment. And when you think about those 3 Ds, when you think about a total commitment, nobody can ask you to do anything more, no matter what you're asked to do. If you give a total commitment, nobody can ask you to do anything more. So my challenge to those playing the game is to make sure that when you go out on the field and when you leave that field, that you have given a total commitment. Remember those 3 Ds, desire, dedication, and determination. They all add up to be a total commitment. So my advice would be totally commit yourself to being the very best that you could be.
Mm,
That's what it is for me.
powerful. That's Goat Griffin right there, y'all. Goat Griffin. If y'all didn't know, now you know, and then you do know, you know why you know, because that's one of the most special dudes to ever do it, not just on the field, but off the field. The great Archie Griffin of Ohio State. He's a part of first annual show of Good in the Game. We appreciate you coming on, OG. I mean, man, humbling. Humbling. Now I can add to my resume that I interviewed one of the GOAT of GOATs. So thank you so much for making some time for us, and keep being you, man, because you really inspire us, man. You inspire so many people. Just keep being you.
Well, thank you, Lavar. Thank you for having me, man. I greatly appreciate that. And it's always great seeing you. I was so happy when I saw you at the Rose Bowl. That was terrific, man. So thank you so very much. Appreciate it.